Hi everybody, it's Lenora Bresler, and I am live on Facebook to give you today's Christmas Delight in the Details video. Now, why Bethlehem? Why did God choose rinky-dink, know-nothing little Bethlehem as the site that his precious son would see when he opened his baby infant eyes? Well, first of all, it was prophesied that the Messiah would come from Bethlehem. But why Bethlehem? Had we been the original Jewish audience of the Gospels, we would have understood why. First of all, Bethlehem is talked about as Ephrath, its original name, all the way back in Genesis, when Jacob, the father of Israel, had his last son, Benjamin, therefore completing the family of God represented by the nation of Israel. Now, they were traveling at the time, and it was outside of Bethlehem that his beloved wife Rachel died, giving birth to Benjamin. Therefore, since the beginning of the Hebrew nation, really, the Hebrew people understood Bethlehem as being a place where life came out of death, and it had to do with the completion of the people of God. To this day, you can go and visit the place where the memorial to Rachel was, outside of Bethlehem. But it's more than that. The great romantic story of Ruth and Boaz happened in Bethlehem. Boaz had to engage in a ceremony known as the Kinsman Redeemer ceremony, in which he wanted to marry Ruth, but he could not until he literally ransomed her or paid for her and got her away from someone who had another claim on her. In that case, it was a man. Now, Jesus also is our kinsman redeemer according to the New Testament. He has redeemed us from a prior claim called the devil, who had us. And what was the price? His precious blood and his very life. In the New Testament, he calls us his bride, and he is our bridegroom. But there's more to it than that. Also, there's more to it than that. There is a story about Bethlehem and King David. King David, of course, the great king, the Messiah prophesied to be in the lineage of King David. Now, Jesus was indeed of the lineage of King David. We know this because in Luke and in Matthew, we have the genealogy of Christ, something we'll talk about tomorrow. And in both situations, both by Mary, by blood, and legally through his earthly father, Joseph, he was descended from King David. So the prophecy could have come true without Jesus not having been born in Bethlehem. But having Jesus born in Bethlehem was like putting an exclamation point behind the fulfillment of this prophecy, because Bethlehem, of course, was also the hometown of King David, the great shepherd. And Christ would later say he was the good shepherd. But there's more. The very name of Bethlehem means house of bread. If there was famine in the land of Israel, there would still be food in the breadbasket of Israel, known as Bethlehem. Very fitting place to be born if you're going to call yourself the bread of life. Jesus also said that he was the living water. And there's a story from King David's time about that. King David was outside of the city of Bethlehem. The Philistines had taken over his beloved hometown, and he was talking to his mighty men about the sweetness of the waters of the springs of Bethlehem. They took it upon themselves to go behind enemy lines and at great sacrifice get him the water. When they returned, he was so overwhelmed by the sacrifice they'd made and the danger they'd put themselves in that he felt unworthy to drink the water, and so offered it to God. And so the people of Israel understood that Bethlehem was a place where sacred water that should be offered to God was given. Again, appropriate for the Messiah, who would be the living water, to be born there. Tune in next time, tomorrow, Christmas Eve, for more of my Christmas Delight in the Details. Merry Christmas.